Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So I will be talking about, or I'll be giving this training session on COVID-19 travel rules, requirements and international guidelines. We all know, and I will be, hang on, okay, right. So I will put the training into these outlines. What you need to know about COVID-19, we can't overemphasize what this is. We can't overemphasize the havoc this monster has caused amongst us as individuals, as human beings in the world since 2000, late 2020, if I'm right now, no, late 2019 or thereabout. The different strains of COVID-19, these are the ones we are battling daily. The COVID hotspots, where do you need to visit? Where can you visit? Where can you not visit? Travel guidelines, what are the different guidelines for different people, for different countries? And then traveling to the United Kingdom from other countries, and would also look at if you need to leave the United Kingdom as well to visit other countries. So we'll dwell more around the traveling to the United Kingdom from other countries, because that is where we are in case people need to travel and come back. Most of us will need to visit families and then return back to our jobs. What do we need to do? What must we do before we leave? And what do we do just before we arrive and after we arrive back into the UK? Okay, so what do we need to know about COVID? Let's just refresh our minds again about this monster. It's infectious, newly discovered, and it's a family of the coronavirus. There are quite a lot of them in that family, but the one we are battling at the moment is the new one, which is the COVID-19. And most people that are infected with this virus will experience mild to moderate respiratory illness, and some will recover without requiring special treatment. Quite a lot of people would even have it and not even know they have it. And all they know is just living on their life. Let me share my little experience. Shortly before the lockdown last year, all I noticed was I think it should be early March. Lockdown started March 23rd, if I'm right. All I noticed was on a Monday, I warmed up my meal, my lunch at work, and I couldn't taste my meal. I thought it was because it was too hot, but then I was like, okay, let me finish this. And I got home that evening, had dinner, I couldn't taste my dinner. Then the next day, it went on to couldn't even smell my favorite perfume when I was going to work. I'm like, something is wrong with me. I couldn't place my hands on it. I couldn't taste, I couldn't smell for the whole week. Then it was shortly after, I think after when the lockdown started, that they announced that loss of sense of smell and taste were some of the symptoms of the disease. Those were the only symptoms I had. And there was no lateral flow test device then, so I couldn't take a test. So apparently I must have caught the virus at some point, maybe at work or while shopping or somewhere. And it was until after they announced it that I realized, oh, okay, that happened to me. That might be it. So I don't know if they test me now for antibodies, I might still have the antibodies present in me. So some people have the virus and they don't know they carry it, whilst some would have to go into hospital. And sadly, we've lost quite a lot of people to this virus. So it's the effect of the virus ranges from individual to individual and on how your body reacts to it. Then older people and those with underlying medical problems, such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, chronic respiratory disease, and cancer would more likely develop serious illness. Quite a lot of people with pneumonia, people with asthma or heart diseases would experience more serious symptoms and would probably would have to be hospitalized. Now, let's look at the different strains of COVID-19. If it's just the one strain we are battling, probably it would have been fair enough, but it's in the nature of viruses to mutate. Let me break that down. Mutate means just to change form. So they keep adapting to the environment they find themselves. They make themselves better suited for the environment because now they realize, okay, human beings, so quite a lot of things are going around. Okay, you can use this and that. This might not be suitable for the virus, or you realize that even some of the things we take would make the virus change its shape or change its form. So therefore, that you have different shapes, different forms of the virus. It's just a normal way of life of viruses, and it's called mutation. So viruses would mutate. So it's not new. That's why every year the NHS would call people to come and take flu jab every year. Unlike some other infections, measles, once you have the measles virus, that's more than enough. But with the flu jab, you have to take the flu jab every year, because every year you have different strains of flu. So they give you the most abundant strain of the year. So the scientists would have researched and they would say, okay, this is the popular strain at the moment, and they develop a jab for that, and then they call people to come and take that jab. Next year, it changes again and they ask you to come for another jab. So that's why we have different strains of COVID-19. It's not something new to us as scientists, because it is in the nature of viruses to mutate. So they're always changing. They have new variants. The changes can be random, some are accidental, and it's in their genetic makeup, it's in their RNA. So what the viral change does, it makes it easier to infect people. And once it is easier to infect people, then it is easier for it to spread. So therefore, that's why that variant becomes very common. So the two variants first noticed in 2020 were the L and S. So those were the strains observed when the pandemic was very new. Then now we have the Alpha. This was first noticed in Eastern England. And we have the Beta. This was the one found in South Africa and then in Nigeria. This is found to be more to spread more easily than the L and the S, but doesn't seem to cause more illness. So the fact that they are mutating is just that they are able to infect people. They can what the virus does is it attaches itself to the respiratory lining, to the respiratory tract. So once it is able to attach effectively, then it is able to cause havoc. So that is what that's what the mutation will cause. It makes them to infect easily. So easy to attach themselves to the lining of the respiratory tract, but it doesn't seem to cause illness. Then you have the Gamma. This one was spotted in people from people who traveled to Brazil. And this is more contagious and capable of infecting someone who has already had the virus before. So this is why you hear someone say they've had the virus twice. So it's not that they've had the virus twice. What they've had is different strains at different times. So they probably were exposed to either the L or the S, or either the Alpha and the Beta, and they got exposed to another strain. So that's why we keep having flu all the time. We would say, okay, I've had the flu jab this year. I wouldn't have flu next year because I've had the flu vaccination this year. But next year you find yourself having flu. What you have is different from what you had last year. You now have a different strain of flu, a strain of flu different from the one you got vaccinated against last year. So that's why some people can have COVID more than once. Now, this is the global tracking for COVID-19. Global tracking for COVID-19, and I got this from CNN. And the UK is somewhere, I'm not very good at geography, but if I'm right, the UK should be somewhere around here. And based on the color code, so the number of, I think this has to do with the number of deaths, and we should be somewhere around here. 2,383. This is not recent because we have more deaths than that. But this is where the UK is at the moment. And then we have the red, the countries in the red zone. Majority of us here, if I'm right, most of us are Nigerians, and most of us are from Africa. Africa is around here. So we are still in this light or orange zone. Now, let's look at the general travel guidelines. Now, the Center for Disease Control has advised to delay travel until you're fully vaccinated. Now, this is from the Center for Disease Control based in America. They've advised to delay travel until you're fully vaccinated. And the UK government has also advised to avoid traveling as much as possible. It is summer, or summer is close to an end now. Most of us had plans for summer. I had a 6 weeks break and I wanted to explore. I wanted to travel. I wanted to go to Nigeria, to be honest with you, but I thought about all the things I have to do before I leave when I get to Nigeria, and when I return to the UK, and I'm like, no, am I ready for all this hassle? No, I'm not. I'd rather spend time within the UK and then relax before before the session begins. And if everything goes well, sometimes next year I could visit home again, because thinking about the stress of traveling right now, it's a no-no for me. So the UK government has advised to avoid traveling as much as possible. And if you need to travel, make it within the UK. There are lots of fun places you could visit in the UK, lots of resorts, lots of activity areas where you could visit and have a good time with your family in the UK. And then if you need to travel abroad at all, you should keep up to date with the latest advice. Sorry, let me see if I can move this around. Okay, so you should keep up to date with the latest advice for the country you plan traveling to and your requirements when you return. So the first thing you need to do is, where am I going to? What do I need to do when I get there? What airline carrier am I going with? Who is the airline? Who is the airline provider? What are their regulations? What are they saying about me traveling? Do I still need to wear my mask? Are there things I need to do whilst on the plane? Those are the things you need to find out before you embark on an international journey. What do I need to do when I get to my country of destination? Do I need to isolate before I start enjoying myself? Or do I just integrate into the community straight away? And when I return, what is expected of me as an individual when I return to the UK? Those are the things you need to keep in mind if you have to travel. Then, when you travel, you may have to either go into managed isolation, or when you return, you may have to either go into managed isolation, or even when you travel, hotel quarantine or self-isolation on your return. So those are the two options for you, depending on where you go. You come back, either go into managed isolation, or you go into self-isolation in your home, comfort of your home. I bet you don't want to experience this hotel quarantine. Let me give an experience of a friend who went to Nigeria from Republic of Ireland. Before she left Republic of Ireland, Nigeria was not on the hotel quarantine list. On getting to Nigeria shortly before her return back to the UK, Nigeria was added to the list. And then she got back from Nigeria. She had to pay for the hotel quarantine. She got into the hotel. She said it was the most ridiculous experience of her life. I think she spent about 10 days there. She spent about 10 days in the hotel quarantine. She said it was ridiculous. She asked for because she wasn't prepared for it when she left for Nigeria. She asked for medications. They didn't arrive on time. Her meals were so boring. And she said the treatment they gave them was the most ridiculous treatment she could ever imagine. She wanted something better, but she didn't get it. It was not a good experience. So if we don't have to travel to areas where we would have to come back into managed isolation, please avoid them. Right. Now, there is an area called the CTA. The CTA is called the Common Travel Area. So these are the areas where we could freely travel, not freely, however, but it's not as serious as traveling outside the CTA. So the Common Travel Area, let's see where they call the Common Travel Area. It refers to the United Kingdom. So that's England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And then you have the Republic of Ireland, the Isle of Man, and the Channel Islands. So these are the areas that make up the CTA. If you have any symptoms of the virus, please do not travel. That's rule number one. Any symptoms, please do not travel, whether it is the CTA or not. Do not travel. And then if traveling from within the CTA and you're staying overnight in Northern Ireland, you should take a rapid lateral flow device test. That's the LFD test before you begin your journey. Now, the rapid lateral flow device test is free to order. So you can order it if you live in the UK, it is free. They deliver it to your house, free of charge. You don't need to pay anything for it. So you can easily order that. People do that these days. So it's something you can easily order. So make sure you take that test before you begin your journey. And obviously, if you test positive, please do not travel. And if your test is inconclusive, please retake the test. Do not assume. Don't make assumption. If the test is inconclusive, do not travel. And if the test is negative, then feel free to travel. Then you take a lateral flow device test on days 2 and day 8 of your stay. So you take this test on day 2 and day 8 of your stay. This is something you don't have to, for this one, you don't need to tell anybody you're traveling. Nobody needs to know where you're traveling to or not or whatnot. All you need to do is just take this test as a concerned citizen. And then still traveling within the common travel area. There are no restrictions on domestic travel in the Republic of Ireland. So if you're traveling within the Republic of Ireland, there is no problem, no restrictions, you can travel. Same as England, you don't have any restrictions, you can travel. And then between Scotland and England, Wales, Northern Ireland, the Channel Islands, and the Isle of Man, there are no travel restrictions as well. So you don't have any travel restrictions. You can go wherever you want to go within those areas. But as a concerned citizen, try to take the lateral flow device test. Right. Now, traveling to England from other countries. Now, this is where we will spend a bit of time. If you need to travel to England, say, for example, you can't avoid traveling. You urgently need to travel. You have to travel. Some of us have been out of the country. Now, there are 3 different groups of countries in the list. We have countries that have been zoned into the red list. We have the amber, and we have the green country list. I've attached the link for countries in each group. So if there's an email, I could send this material and then it can be distributed to every participant. So you have the link to where you can find whatever country you're going to, you can find it in the link. So you have the link for the countries. The government has advised not to travel to countries in the red group. And what do we mean by the red group? The red group are the countries where you have still have high or huge or uncontrollable cases of COVID-19. So these countries are not safe to travel to. The countries in amber, there are quite a lot of countries in the amber list now, and some countries in amber will be moved into the green country list from Monday, I think. So the amber, quite a lot of countries are in the amber list, and Nigeria happens to be one of them. Most countries in Africa happen to be to be in the amber list, so that's a good thing for us. And for the red group, please do not travel to them according to the government advice. You will only be allowed entry into England if you're coming from the red list country on some criteria. So you will only be allowed entry into England. So for example, you leave England and then you want to come in, or you're coming into England afresh, maybe as a visitor from a red list country, you need to meet some criteria. Now let's look at those criteria. Sorry, no, I think something is missing. Something is missing, definitely. Right, so only if you are a British national or an British national. If you're not British, then you must be resident in Britain. Those are the only reasons why you will be allowed entry into England if you're coming from the red list country. So that's the missing part, but I remember that clearly from yesterday. If you're coming into England from any red list country, you need to be in British national. So you must be holding a British passport, or you must be a permanent resident in the UK, or you must have some form of residence permit in the UK. So without any form, so for example, a visitor from a red list country would not be allowed entry into England. Now, what are the rules for the red list country? What should you do if you have to travel to the red list country? What do you need to do? Or when you're coming back to the UK? So when you're coming back to the UK, 10 days before your arrival to England, you need to do the following. 1, you take a COVID test 3 days prior to your arrival in England. So that's at least 72 hours. I would like to work with hours because sometimes days days, hours is better to count, especially when it comes to issues like this. So it's better you use hours to count. So you take a COVID-19 test 72 hours before you travel to England. So for example, if your flight is on Monday, tomorrow is Sunday, today is Saturday. So the earliest, if your flight is maybe 10 p.m. Monday night, the earliest you can take a test will be 10 p.m. Yesterday night. So that's why I would like to count with hours. So you can't say you're going for a 10 p.m. flight and then do your COVID test 8 a.m. yesterday morning. That might not count. So it will be safer to do it maybe today. So you have, you still have, you're still well into your 72 hours before you travel to England. Then you need to book a quarantine hotel package. So you book a quarantine hotel package for those who are coming from the red list country, who are British national or have a form of residence permit in England. You would need to book a quarantine hotel package, and including in what will be included in that also will be 2 COVID-19 tests. I've also attached the link below on how to book your quarantine hotel package. So you book your hotel package, and then you've done your COVID test. Obviously, if your test is positive, you can't travel. If it is negative, then you're free to travel. Then you complete a passenger locator form. This applies to everyone, even if you're transiting through UK. The passenger locator form is applicable to every traveler into the UK and even into the EU. So if you're traveling from anywhere, you need to fill this passenger locator form. If you're transiting, you have to. And then upon arrival in the UK, you must quarantine in a managed hotel and take 2 COVID-19 tests, days 2 and 8. The only exemptions are children under the age of 4. So children under the age of 4, they do not need to take the test, but they will still be quarantined. Now, this is how this works. From the airport, you will be directed to the bus that will take you to the hotel. So it is the responsibility of, so you will be, once you leave, once you exit from the airplane, you go through immigrations, you get your bags, and then what is next is they take you, they kind of like guide you to where you get on the bus, and the bus will take everybody involved to the quarantine hotel. And you'll be there for 10 days, quarantining. Everything you need will be given to you. So they say you would have access to internet, you would have access to food. So you'll be served breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then you can pay for extra meal if you want to. If it's a family that have traveled and are returning into the UK and are quarantining, you will be provided a family room. But during the period, if anybody within the family tests positive to any of the tests, maybe day 2 or day 8, they will be treated as individual rooms. So those individuals will be treated separately, and they will not be allowed they will not be allowed out of the hotel until they test negative. So they will be in the hotel quarantining and will need to take further tests. We don't pray their situation deteriorates such that they will have to leave for the hospital. Then on day 10, you're free to go. Then there are some information about this as well. So if you need to travel to a red list country and you decide to park your car at the airport, this is extra money for you because you will not be allowed to drive in your car. So your car will still be parked at the airport and you would have to pay extra charges for the extra days you spend quarantining. So that's for the red list countries. Now, let's look at the amber list, rules for the amber list. The rules for the different countries is in the link I sent earlier, so you can always refer to the link for that information, for information about those countries. Now, for the amber list group, this is this is milder. So the first information is Monday the 30th, some countries will be moving from one group to the other. So you would have some countries that will be moving from the amber to the green, and from the amber to the red. So Thailand and Montenegro will be moved to the red list. They're currently in the amber list and they're going to the red list from Monday. So that means anyone coming in from Thailand or Montenegro up until tomorrow night will be treated as someone coming from an amber list country. But from 12 midnight, Monday, that's 30th, the moment 30th of August starts. That's midnight tomorrow. Anybody coming in from Montenegro and Thailand will be treated as someone coming in from a red list country. So that means the rule concerning the red list country would apply to them. But if you come in before Monday the 30th, then you will be treated as someone coming from an amber list country. And then we have Canada, Denmark, Finland, Liechtenstein, Lithuania, Portugal, including the Azores and Switzerland. Currently in the amber list will be moved to the green list. So these countries currently they're in the amber list will be moving to the green list from Monday. So if you arrive to the UK from these countries, you must follow the amber rules. And then the amber list is not exhaustive. So if you go through the link and then you discover the country, your country of destination is not on that link or is not on that list, please do not assume they're on the green list or assume they're on the red list. Make sure you find out which group they belong. So do not assume they're on the green list because they're not on the amber list. So make sure you check all the lists correctly before you embark on any journey. Because it would be so sad to think that a country is on an amber list, meanwhile it's on the red list. That is the worst thing that can happen to anyone, because you would have to pay for the hotel quarantine. And the hotel quarantine, from what I gather, is not cheap. I don't know exactly how much it is. I don't know if anybody can help us with how much it is. I don't know exactly how much it is, but it is quite expensive. It is a lot. So think about your flight money and the money you would spend when you travel, and then having to pay for the hotel quarantine. So be extremely sure the country of your country of wherever you're coming from, whatever list they belong to, you need to be very sure before you return to the UK. Now, what's the rules for the amber list? Now, for the amber list, you have a COVID-19 test which will be taken 3 days prior to your arrival in England. So if you're coming to England, say from Nigeria, you will have to take the test 3 days before your arrival. Then you book and you pay for tests. These are the tests you will take when you return to England. So you will book and then you pay for this test before you travel. And then you complete a passenger locator form. This is very important. Some carriers would not carry you without this passenger locator form. I must stress this. This is very important. Some carriers would not carry you. No, let me say some carriers. Most carriers would not carry you without the passenger locator form. Now, what this form requires of you is your phone number, your address. So that's the address of wherever it is you're going to in the UK. So if, for example, let's say a student coming in afresh to the UK to study from Nigeria comes in, is coming in, he or she needs to fill this passenger locator form, their phone number in the UK, the address of where they are isolating. So this is, for students, what they do normally is they just look for a family or they look for friends. And if they don't have any, they just get a house immediately and they get the address. So the address of where you'll be staying for the 10 days is important to also include. And then you must do these things whether you're fully vaccinated or not. So the fact that you're vaccinated does not mean you're exempted. Vaccination does not equal exemption. Please, let's not mistake the two together. Vaccination does not mean exemption. If you're vaccinated, you still have to do these things. Then, let's look at what if I'm fully vaccinated. What does it mean to be fully vaccinated? So for you to be fully vaccinated, you must have taken 2 doses of Pfizer, 2 doses of AstraZeneca, and then 1 dose of the Janssen. This is not so popular in the UK. I'm aware it's more popular in the US. It's just 1 dose for this. So for the Pfizer, you have 2 doses For the AstraZeneca, you have 2 doses, and for these, you have just 1 dose. However, your last dose for all of them should be at least 14 days before your travel. So you can't take your last dose maybe in the last 5 days, and then you're returning to England and say you're fully vaccinated. That would not count for you. So for you to be fully vaccinated, you must have had any of this complete in the last 14 days. So it must be at least 14 days within your system. So 14 days before, you should be at least 14 days before your arrival, 1 dose of the Johnson, and then you still need to take the pre-departure test. So if you've been fully vaccinated, you still need to take the pre-departure test. Then you would ask me, why do I need to take the pre-departure test when I've been fully vaccinated? I'm vaccinated anyway, I'm not ill. The fact that you're fully vaccinated does not mean you can transmit the disease to someone else. The fully vaccinated ones, they are still capable of transmitting or infecting someone who is not vaccinated. So that is why we need to take the pre-departure pre-departure test. So if that is negative, feel free to travel. If it is inconclusive, you have to retake the test. And then if it is positive, you would have to wait until it's all clear before you travel. Then you need to show proof of vaccination. That is important. I think I just got a text message to log on to the NHS website and download my proof of vaccination. So if you've had your full vaccination, you should have the proof of vaccination. This you would have to tender. It's not enough to just tell them, oh, I'm fully vaccinated. You have to show proof that you've been fully vaccinated. Then you need to take the day 2 test upon arrival in the UK. I'm sure you're saying, oh, well, then what's the essence of being vaccinated? Now let's see, what's the good news for those of us that have been fully vaccinated? You don't need to isolate. So that's good. So if you've been fully vaccinated, you've shown your proof of vaccination, you take the pre-departure test, you don't need to self-isolate. So you just come back and then life continues as normal. Then you need to take, but then you still need to take the day 2 test upon arrival. So it's just day 2 tests. You don't have to worry about day 8 test upon arrival. Okay, so that's good news for those of us that have been fully vaccinated. What time is it? If we can take Mr. Bill, should we take a break? 10 minutes?
Yes, sure. We can have 10 minutes then, and then we'll be back at exactly 11 o'clock on the dot.
Okay.
So yeah, see you all then. Thank you so much.
All right then. Dose of the Pfizer or the AstraZeneca, or you've not had any at all. So those are the category of people that have not been fully vaccinated. So it's either you've had just 1 doses of AstraZeneca or Pfizer, or you've not had any at all. So those are the people in the category of the not fully vaccinated or not vaccinated. So you isolate at home or in the place you're staying for 10 days, and you take a COVID test on day 2, on or before day 2, and on or after day 8, after your arrival. Now, I need to stress something about this, especially if you're coming in to the UK. I've heard cases of people that have been visited at home by officials. So if you give them an address that you're at that address, you're expected to be at that address all through the 10 days. They don't expect you to go out because you are in isolation. They've called people, they've visited, they've knocked on people's doors to ensure they're at home, to actually see them, to make sure they're at home. Please do not take the chances. If you're staying at home, remain at home. That's the rule. Okay, I've not been fully vaccinated. I can't afford to take 10 days away from work. Say, for example, someone like me, I teach in a secondary school and resumption is next week, Wednesday. I have to be at work. My work is so strict. I have to be at work. What can I do? There are options. There are ways to go about. There's another route for someone like that who can't wait for the entire 10 days. What can you do? You have to take the test to release scheme. This is slightly more, a bit more expensive, but then you won't have to do the complete 10 days, because what you need to do is you have to pay for a private COVID test on day 5. So in this case, you have to pay for a private test on day 5. So you won't do day 8, but you do day 5. So you do day 2, you do day 5. So if day 2 comes out negative, you can go ahead to do day 5. But if day 2 comes out positive, then you have to, obviously, you have to stay. Then you take day 5 test. If day 5 test comes out negative, then you're free, your isolation would finish. But if it comes out positive, obviously isolation continues. So you can end your isolation if days 2 and 5 are negative. Excuse me, you have to have been in England for 5 full days before you can take the test. So you can't come in and spend maybe 4.5 days and take day 5 test. You have to have spent 5 full days in England before you take the test. And it is voluntary. You don't have to do this, and only applies to those in England only. So this only applies to people in England, not Scotland, not Wales, not Northern Ireland. So you have to follow the rules for Northern Ireland and the rules for Wales. And then you cannot take part in the scheme if you've been in or through a country on the red list. So if you visited the red list country, or you've transited through a red list country 10 days prior to your arrival in England, then you would not be allowed to take part in that. Okay, let's go on. So that is that for the amber list countries, and then we move on to the green list countries. Now we have the green list countries. These are the countries that are in quotes safe to visit, in quote safe to visit. And I said earlier, some countries are moving on to that group from Monday in the amber list: Canada, Denmark, Finland, Lithuania, Portugal, and a few countries are moving to the green list from Monday. So some are in the green list group. You still have some that are on the watch list. So if you go through that link I sent earlier, you will still see those countries as well that are on the watch list. So those countries stand a chance of being moved to the amber group if their conditions change suddenly. So before you return to the UK from a green list country, what do you need to do? You still need to take a test 72 hours. So this is peculiar to everyone coming into the UK. You have to take the 72 hours test before departure. Whether you're coming from a red list, whether you're coming from amber, whether you're coming from the green list group, you have to take the test 72 hours before departure. Then you book a day 2 test. Complete a passenger locator form. This is also peculiar to everybody. These 3 are peculiar to everyone. Book 72-hour test before 72-hour test before departure. Day 2 test, the passenger locator form, peculiar to everyone. Right. Some of us are very stubborn, and we would say, so for the for the green list, you don't have to isolate. So when you return, you just book a day 2 test, complete a passenger locator form, take a test 72 hours before departure. You return to England or the UK, and life continues as normal. There is no isolation, just like people that have been fully vaccinated. You don't need to isolate. And then for the stubborn ones that would say, you know what, I don't want to take the test. What if you don't take the test? What are the repercussions of not taking the test? You could be fined up to £2,000. That's quite a lot of money. It will take some of us a while to gather £2,000 if we need to pay for this. So imagine the stress of coming back from another country on holiday. You've spent so much money. Probably you've spent up to this £2,000, and someone is asking you to come and pay £2,000 again for not taking a test. So what would you do? So I would rather take the test, be on the safe side, and then I'm free of the £2,000 fine. So if you don't take the test, you could get fined up to £2,000. Please, if you need to travel, make sure you make all the arrangements to take your test when you return. And when you take your test, it's especially the lateral flow device ones, it is your responsibility to report your results to the NHS. So there is a barcode you can scan that would allow you enter in your results. So scan the barcode and then you can enter your results and report it to the NHS. Now, some of us have children. What are the rules for children? Let's see. What do we need to do if you're traveling with children? For children that are resident in the UK, the British Overseas Territories, the Channel Islands, Isle of Man, USA, or a recognized European country do not have to quarantine. So for these children, you do not have to quarantine them. They do not have to isolate. Then children under aged 4 and under do not have to take any COVID-19 travel test. So for any child under age 4, they don't have to take the 72-hour travel test. 11 to 17-year-olds would have to take a pre-departure test and day 2 test upon arrival. So for 11 to 17-year-olds, they will need to take a pre-departure test, and they will also need to do the day 2 test upon arrival. Then children aged 5 to 7, they don't have to take a pre-departure test, but must take day 2 test upon arrival. So these, all the first requirement applies to children who are resident in the UK. So their parents are resident in the UK, or they are British themselves, and all of that. These rules apply to them. However, children aged 5 to 17 resident in another country. So for example, children aged 5 to 17 coming into the UK with their parents for holiday, or as a dependent for maybe a tier 2 worker coming into the UK to start work, they must take a pre-departure test. They would also need to take the day 2 and day 8 test upon arrival in the UK. And these ones must isolate for 10 days. But then someone would say this doesn't make sense, because, for example, they say that children under children do not have to, these ones do not have, okay, these are residents in the UK, they do not have to quarantine, so that's fair enough. But then if you're coming from another country and are not residents, you need take 2 days, day 2 and day 8 test when you arrive in the UK, and you need to isolate for 10 days. And then children under 4 do not need to take tests, but must follow isolation rules. So if someone coming in as a tier 2 worker comes in with their family newly and their children under aged 4, they don't have to take tests, but they must follow the isolation rules. So if the parents are isolating, obviously the children will isolate. They can't release them out because no one will look after them. Right. I saw one question before I move on to traveling to the US. There was a question I saw about the red list. There's a link I've attached when I started talking about the 3 different groups. If you look through that group, if you click on the link, excuse me, you will see the list of those countries. Those countries in the red list, they are countries that have a significant amount of cases, number of cases. They have a very, very high number of cases of COVID at the moment. So the rules, the list keeps changing. The list is a thing the UK government has devised, and they put countries in those groups based on how they are doing with managing the crisis. So for the countries that are managing the crisis very well, or they have limited number of cases, and managing the crisis means a lot. It's all encompassing. It includes how many people have been vaccinated. It includes how many people are dying from the disease as at today, how many people have been recorded to have the disease as at today. So that is how they keep updating this this list. So for the countries in the red list, they either have very little access to vaccination, or their people are not taking the vaccine, or they still have quite a huge number of cases, and it is not under control. So I wouldn't say it's under control in the UK, but the number of cases, or the number of people that have been vaccinated, is substantial in the UK. So I would say we are good to go in the UK. Or let's even look at Nigeria as a country. Nigeria, the number of people that have been vaccinated is not a lot. But however, the number of cases we keep recording in Nigeria is not as high, or the number of cases that are being recorded is not as high as those countries that are in the red list. So that's why Nigeria is still in the amber group. The vaccination is going on in Nigeria, but quite a lot of people are still skeptical about taking the vaccination. I've had to educate quite a few people, a few family friends about the vaccination. It's not something they want to use to track you. Nobody's tracking anybody. Let's be real here. Nobody's tracking anybody. We are all trying to fight this monster together. So I don't believe in all of these theories, all of these conspiracy theories. I don't believe in them. It's a virus. We need to fight. We need to fight it. It's here. It's here. I keep telling people, it's a sad thing to say, but right from the beginning last year, I said to my students, it's here to stay. The reason why I said that is because it was not contained within China. If this virus had been contained within China, we would say, okay, maybe there will be an end to it. But the moment it slipped out of China, I knew it was here. It's here to stay. So it's something we all have to live with. It's just like measles. Measles is everywhere. It's a virus. Measles is around, it's been around for a while. The only thing we can do is keep getting the vaccination. Children get MMR. This one is no different. The COVID vaccine is no different. It's just a vaccination. It's an injection. Let's get it and let's at least help the world. Let's help ourselves as individuals. So those are the groups. That's with the groups. I hope I've answered that question. Oh, thank you very much. We need you to come to more communities. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so let's go on. Okay, my screen doesn't want to move. Now, if you're going to the USA from the UK, I don't know why the US is not in the red list, because I don't know what they are doing in the US. Anyway, thank God for President Biden. But in the when we had President, what's that man's name? Please, somebody help me. What's that man's name?
Are you talking about Trump? Trump.
Yeah, Trump. President Trump. When we had President Trump, the number of cases in the US was outrageous. It was really, really outrageous. You keep hearing cases here and there, people dying and people not wearing masks. I don't know why you would not wear masks. So if you're going to the USA from the UK, you need to check quarantine regulations for the state you're visiting before departure. We all know the way USA works. What works in state A would not work in state B. So you need to check the regulations for the state you're visiting. I haven't taken time to, because it will take a lot of time if you're looking at all the states in the US. So make it a point of duty to check for the quarantine regulations for the state you're visiting before you leave the UK, so you don't hear stories that touch. If you need to fill a passenger locator form, please make sure you fill it before you leave the UK. Some carriers will not carry you. There was a case of a student coming into the UK last year with this year, February, with my cousin, and they didn't carry her because she forgot to fill the passenger locator form. They didn't carry her. So she had to go back home, and she was not knowledgeable enough to know that she can do it online at the airport. So what she thought it was something she would have to print, fill, and all of that. She thought it was a hassle, but it's something easy. She lost that flight. She had to pay for another flight. So please, let's be aware. You need to check before you depart. Let's not waste our money. Money is hard to get. Then this information you can find on the CDC website. So that's the Center for Disease Control, and then the individual state health department website as well. You will find that there. So you'd always find this information that the information is readily available on the internet. And if you're traveling to other parts of Europe from England, what do you need to do? This is applicable to all European countries. The digital passenger locator form, this seems to be popular. So you need to fill this as well. This needs to be filled before you depart. There are different other regulations for different EU states. The link is there. So you check for the state, for the country you're going to visit, and then you see what you're required to do. And obviously we've dwelt on what you need to do when you return to the country. For Spain, I've picked an example. You need to show a negative COVID-19 test result because that's a popular destination. Negative COVID-19 test results or a proof of vaccination is required. And I've told us how to get our proof of vaccination. You either get sent a letter, or I got a text this morning, and then you can download your letter online. Now, safety measures, whether or not you have to isolate, whether or not you have to take tests or whatnot, safety measures, we still have to put that in place. This has made some of us more interested in cleanliness, in hygiene. COVID has made a lot of us to be very interested in hygiene in the last 1 year. Wash hands, we can't overemphasize that. Wash your hands regularly. Use soap. Please don't just use water. Use soap. Rub your hands very well. We know the technique of washing hands. Wash your hands. Avoid crowds if you have to, please. If you have to, avoid crowds. This virus is not here to play. Let's be realistic. It's not playing. And COVID, it doesn't look face. It not the look face. Let me come back to our own language. COVID know the look face. It doesn't recognize whether you're tall or rich or dark or handsome. It infects anybody. So please avoid crowds if you have to. I see quite a lot of people going for shows, going for a lot of things. Last night, Burna Boy was in I think London. The place was jam-packed. People were not wearing masks. In a tight place like that, I won't go there. So please avoid crowds if you have to. And if you can, then if you can't avoid crowds, wear masks. The government has removed it, but please let's use our initiative to use our mask. Let's wear our mask. Avoid handshake if it is possible. I know we've missed handshakes, we've missed giving hugs, but then if we can avoid it, please stay away from it. Then spray. We can't overemphasize that. Spray, wipe down every time, and make sure you adhere to all the regulations we've been given. We have our roles to play in the fight against this virus. When offered the vaccine, I've mentioned that earlier, do not hesitate to take it. Nobody is recording anybody. Nobody is chipping anybody. Let's be truthful to ourselves. We are all enlightened. Nobody is chipping anybody. Let's be truthful. Let's be sincere. There is no conspiracy. These conspiracy theories, I do not believe them. It's a virus. So if you're offered the vaccine, please take it. It does not mean you can't contact the virus if you are vaccinated. It only reduces the severity. It's been reported that people who have been vaccinated and they get the virus do not get hospitalized. Some of them would not even know they've had the virus. So what they will just experience is maybe mild symptoms or even no symptom at all. So that's why it's even more deadly for people that have not been vaccinated to be around people that have been vaccinated, because they can easily catch it from those that have been vaccinated. So if you've been vaccinated, please still wear your mask. Let's be reasonable. Let's think about others. Let's not be selfish. Some people cannot be vaccinated for some reasons or the other. I have quite a few neighbors that said because they're trying with a particular neighbor, they're trying for some particular health thing, it's preventing them from being vaccinated. So they have to be very careful. And then we have some people that for one reason or the other, they still don't want to take the vaccination. Let's respect their opinion. We won't force it down people's throats. So let's be careful around them. Let's still wear our mask. Let's still be careful around them. We can't overemphasize this. If you're walking through the airport, please still use your mask. If you're on the airplane, if you have to use your mask, please use your mask. I think some airplanes still make it mandatory to wear face mask. So if they make it mandatory, please do wear your mask. Right. So whilst we were on break, I quickly checked for the packaged hotel quarantine fees. It's not cheap. One adult in one room for 10 days, that's 11 nights, 2,285. Additional rate for one adult. So if it's a couple, you would pay 1,430, that's extra. And an additional rate for a child aged 5 to 11 is 325. That's not cheap. And then for children under the age of 5, there is no charge for them, so they quarantine for free in the hotel. And the cost of managed quarantine, this includes your food, your transport, your security, your testing, and essential wraparound services, medical care, and welfare checks. So those are the things that are included in your quarantine fees. And then in summary, avoid international travel if you can. Please, if you can, avoid it. If you must travel, check the rules for the destination country and the state in particular, if you're going to the US. And then avoid traveling to the red list countries. Please, let's keep them out of reach for now. If you must, then check the guidelines for returning back to the UK and be ready to cough out the money required for your packaged quarantine. Then check with the carrier airline, as they also have their own rules. So different carrier airlines have their different rules. And on your return to the UK, ensure you adhere to the rules, as you could be fined up to £2,000. And overall, we all have our individual roles to play in the fight against this monster. The virus is a monster. It is here to stay. We need to learn how to live with it. We live with the flu. The truth is, people are dying from flu, but they don't get announced. So let's see coronavirus as one disease, as plus one disease to the numerous diseases we have on Earth. and let's see it as an infectious disease, and let's play our role in limiting the spread and curbing its effects. And thank you very much for listening. And now it's time to take our questions.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for that brilliant presentation.
Thank you very much, sir.
There isn't much question here. Do we want to verbally ask our questions, or we want to type it in the chat box whilst I read those out for Doctor to provide answers to those? If can we? Okay.
Okay.
I guess, Doctor, you covered most of the points that, to the point, you covered your topic so well to the point where most of us don't have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello, I've asked a question, Martin. What help is there for persons with disability? And that's both in the airport and in the community. And what more can we be doing? The information she's providing is absolutely vital and a lot to digest in. And also, I know that I lost network. Can you resend some of those links that you had resent earlier on so that I can copy them? I didn't get a chance to sort of copy them. And my other question is hidden disability, because most of the time when we look at disability, we're looking at just the physical disability, and that's quick to support. So what help is there for persons with hidden disability, and especially people with sickle cell anemia and all those kind of diseases, so that we can get the best chances for our communities to be supported? Dr. Ola, thank you, Martin.
Oh, thank you very much, Juliet. Thank you very much, Juliet, for your question. That's an important question. Right, for people with hidden disability, and you mentioned one particular one, sickle cell anemia, which is common to people of our ethnic of our ethnic background. They've been advised, or there's this advice for them not to travel. There's an advice for them not to travel. And if they have to travel, they need to make known their situation. So some of us are very shy about our situation and we don't want to speak out. But I'm glad I'm in this generation now where a lot of people are more vocal about situations like that. It's no longer hidden. So what they are expected to do is to still follow the guidelines. If they have to travel, now the word I use is if, not when. So it is advisable for them not to travel. But there are times they have to travel. If they have to travel, they still need to stick to the rules. And for their own benefit as well, I would say they should keep up to the safety measures. So someone with sickle cell anemia, if they still need to access the community, I would say they should still be wearing their mask. I would say they should be the ones avoiding crowd. I would say they should be the ones not going to gigs, not going to shows. So they can watch all these shows from home because they have a health issue already. I would use my dad as an example. My dad is hypertensive, and my dad is a very bubbly man. He's in his late 60s, but he's very bubbly. And I'm very worried about him. He lives in Nigeria. I'm really worried about him. He likes to go out. He likes to go for parties. When COVID was at its peak last year, I had to beg him, Dad, please stay at home. I don't want you to have COVID. I don't want you to catch it at all, because you already have an underlying medical issue. So people with underlying medical issues should please look after themselves. The government is trying so hard. The government has so many things in place for them, but then the responsibility falls back on us as individuals. That is what I can see about people with underlying medical issues. So I will put them all together as one. I had to beg my dad last year, please stay at home for this period. Let's this wave pass over. if this wave can pass over, then we can start being bubbly again. We can start going out again. So for those with underlying medical issues, the government would always be ready to help them. Thank God we live in an environment where there is good health care facility. So I'm sure there will be, I don't work in the hospital, but I'm sure someone with their history is known already. So if they come up with the disease and they need to be hospitalized, they will be prioritized. If they if they are in the UK, they will definitely be prioritized because they already have an underlying medical issues. So they will attend to them and ensure they do well. So my advice for them would be, please stick to the safety measures wherever you find yourself. If you need to go out, use your mask, wash your hands, and do everything you can to make yourself safe.
My next question, Dr. Ola, is on women with heavy periods and stuff like that.
Okay.
And so I thought I hear, especially for Black women, and these are issues that concern women so much. So if I pose that question, and the fear is real, Dr. Ola. So how do we go about thinking about these issues? And I know that maybe these things, and we've seen sort of like reports where there is a lot of fear online when you see that people are reporting that issues of their periods and stuff like that has been affected. And also for women who have got irregular periods, how do we support them as well to understand about these issues?
Right. Thank you very much. These are really issues that I'm not passionate. I won't use the word passionate because I don't talk about them much, but when discussion comes up, I'm able to chip in one or two things. Now, I'll use myself as an example. Something is very common to us as as Africans or ethnic minority that we don't take notice of. It's called polycystic ovarian syndrome. I have that. We don't talk about it, but I'm glad to talk about it. I hope the men do not mind in this session. I'm sorry it's a bit off the topic, but it's something we need to address. So I've got polycystic ovarian syndrome. I didn't know about it until I got married, when we started trying for a child. My period is irregular when when I was younger, and I was never bothered. My mom never bothered. That is the environment we grew up in. I never bothered about it. I was like, well, I know I'm not pregnant, so who cares? But when I was ready to get pregnant, then all of these things started cropping up. So I would say, as Black women or as people from the ethnic minority background, it is time we start speaking to our children right from when they are young, when they are babies. Some words were illegal in my house when I was growing up as a child. You dare not mention some words. You dare not mention the real name of the private part in my house when we were growing up. Never. You will get beaten for it in my house. But we've grown up to a generation where we now have to educate our children about all those things. Call the names as it is. They're biological names. Call them as it is. That way we can actually curb things like abuse on our girls and even on our boys. These are things that people don't talk about. So I think it is time for us as people of ethnic minorities to start speaking up. If you're experiencing this issue, speak up. Speak up. People might not want to hear it, but then someone might want to hear it. Like you mentioned it now, I want to hear it because these are real life experiences of people. There are other issues. PCOS is it's a joy killer for women. That is why some of us have extra hair on our bodies. We have hair in places where men have hair. It is PCOS. Heavy periods. People spend so much money on sanitary towels every month. So we need to speak up about those things. We need to get medical attention. This is urgent. This is something we need to work on. We shouldn't shy away from this as people of ethnic minority. We shouldn't shy away from it. We should start speaking up about our concerns. The moment we start speaking up, that is the moment when real change will start to happen. But then if we keep it bottled up inside ourselves and we have this idea that God will do it, we will go back to where we started from. But the moment we start speaking up and saying, enough is enough, this is my problem, I need to address it now, then solution might not come immediately, but then solution will start to come in from the people you talk to. Align yourself with people of like minds, people that are ready to speak up, speak their truth. These things happen. So Juliet, I would say it's time for us to start speaking up about real life issues, heavy period, heavy bleeding, PCOS, endometriosis, fibroids. These are issues that concern people of ethnic minority, and it needs to get the attention. And how will that happen? When we speak up. Sickle cell anemia, people shy away from it. Now, I'll give an example of a sickle cell anemia I had when I was heavily pregnant. She came visiting. She's a daughter to my mom's, maybe, let me say, street sister. So she came to visit me here in my house. I was heavily pregnant. It was in the spring, and I was always very warm. I never used my heating because it was very warm for me. And she didn't tell me she had that issue. Then we went out and she got an attack. She had a crisis. I was shaking. I didn't know what to do. And then she said to me, when I called the ambulance, she said, tell them sickle cell in crisis. I felt blood leaving my brain because I was so scared, and I've never experienced that kind of thing before. I felt myself being drained. And this was me quarter to having my son. This happened, I think, first week in April. I had my son last week in April. So imagine how huge, and I was very huge. Imagine how huge I was. I had to beg the girl on the ambulance, on the 999 phone, to please stay with me, because if I'm not careful myself, I would go into forced labor because I am scared the way she was going on. I was parading, when the ambulance finally came, I was parading the hospital twice a day to check her. I live in Essex. This happened to us in Southeast London. And she was admitted into Queen Elizabeth, I think it's Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Southeast. That was where she got admitted. So I was parading there twice a day, morning, evening, heavily pregnant. So if she had spoken to me when she got to my house that, sis, your house is too cold, I would have run my heating, and she would have told me this is our situation. So it's better we start speaking up before our problems get a better hold of us.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ola. Quite conscious of time now. Thank you a lot, Juliet, for that really good question.
Dr.
Yeah. So,
Martin, I still have one more question, very important question. I know that we're taking break, but just a very quick question. This
no, sorry, Juliet, we are not taking break. We actually going for the 1 hour break now. We've been on for half an hour now, an hour and a half. But if you can make it quick, please.
So my last question, Dr. Ola, as I know that it is important, and I know that I'm asking these questions for a reason. My last question is for men now, because I've asked about women. So, you know, their manhood. I've had men telling me that their manhood might not work. So I'm asking this question in terms of like just you giving us confidence. And, you know, we've also had cases where men have had diabetes and stuff like that. And so they're actually suffering silence, Dr. Ola. And, you know, these are important questions I'm asking on this program. So thank you so much for bearing with me, Martin, for asking this question. How do we know that our men, and especially, you know, for the Black man especially, and women fear these conversations as well. So can you help us how to approach these issues? And my last question is, I know that I did say one, I still have to sneak this question. Our unborn babies, Black women have had cases in terms of hospitals here, as you've seen the reports that have been produced. I'm going to be sending a report right now in our link here, which I would love your campaign as a doctor to get us involved, all of us, and to support such programs. Can you help us to understand as women how to convince women to also uptake this kind of things? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Juliet. I think it all boils down to speaking up. Our men also need to start speaking up, and they need to drop that ego. That ego is a huge, huge factor when it comes to our men, and they don't want to speak up. Right. In Nigeria, where I come from, if a couple are suffering from infertility, it's always the woman. But I had to wait 8 years for my son, and I've come to realize, or I've seen cases and I've heard cases where it's actually not the woman, it's the man. So everything boils down to speaking up, and our men need to drop their ego and accept it. This is how it is. This is what it is. They need to speak up because men suffer in silence. I was talking about abuse. It's not only the girl child that get abused. The boy child also gets abused, but the boy child would not speak up. And all of this starts from when we start telling our children, a boy does not cry. Who says that? Let him cry. It's an emotion. When you start telling your boy child, no, boys don't cry, men don't cry, says who? Where's that coming from? Let them cry. Let them express their emotion. The moment we start saying boys don't cry or na man you be, things like that, let's start going away from such ideology. Let men cry. It is okay to cry. You cry, you get up. Okay, why did I cry? What's the problem? Let's find a solution. So it is okay for men to speak up. So as women as well. So the only way we can help ourselves is when we start speaking up, when we start understanding that men also face real issues. Men also face abuse. When the marriage is going wrong, it's always the woman. The woman is this, the woman is that. But the man also can get abused in the marriage. Let's be realistic. When I look at, when I hear cases of divorce, I ask, from both sides of the story. Let's hear from both sides of the story. Men also get physically abused in marriages. We've heard of cases like that. But because he's a man, nobody is looking at him. Rather, the people are looking at the woman. So let's not be biased here. I know I'm a woman and I should be supporting women, but I know some of us women are trouble. I know. So the moment our men also start speaking up and they start to drop down their ego, and I think we would start to have a way forward. But if the ego issue is still there, we might not have a way forward with addressing life issues that concern men.
Thank you very much. I hope that has answered Juliet's question.
Sorry, sir. Juliet, I might call you. If you can drop your number, I can call you maybe in my free time, and then we'll talk about this thing, especially when it comes to pregnant women in the hospital, Black pregnant women and unborn children in the hospital.